morning to everyone who has joined for this webinar. Morning to everyone from Europe, and good evening to everyone who joined in India. So we are just about to start our webinar. Maybe another couple of seconds we would start. Firstly, let me just give you a short webinar etiquette which would help us to keep the house clean. Number one, please always keep your phone in the microphone in the mute mode. That would help for the disturbance-free discussion, the presentation. Number two, raise your hand in case if you have a question, or you can type the questions in the question list with the question window or in the chat window which is there in the webinar panel. We have reserved around 20 minutes at the end of the presentation only for the discussion. So I would really appreciate if you could ask questions or reserve your questions to the last session. The structure of today's webinar would be, we have two speakers, myself, Vittal Kumar, the first in the list that you see, and the second speaker would be Mr. Raji Kumar Pillai, who is the President of India Smart Grid Forum. I would open up the session, give a short introduction about EBTC as well as to the sector, and then Mr. Raji Kumar would take us through the journey of what is happening with respect to the smart grids, the challenges as well as the opportunities. And the rest 20 minutes we would dedicate for the interactions. Very, very brief about EBTC. EBTC is a technology platform which is set up in India with the EU interest. We work in 4 key sectors: biotech, energy, environment and transport, and we work right from visibility to incubation. So any business or research institution or individual have any interest in India, we are the platform. So please connect to us, as we are the technology platform. We have 4 locations across India, New Delhi being the headquarters. Briefly, the content of today's presentation, I would quickly take you through the energy demand scenario in India, the Indian energy mix, especially from the generation perspective, the supply and demand gap, and the impact of the renewable on the generation. We briefly touch upon the distribution scenario, the transmission scenario, and how an integrated of generation, transmission, and distribution would help, or rather would posing us an opportunity as a challenge for the smart grid intervention, and what EBTC is doing in this scenario. Well, as all of us know, briefly about growing energy demand, the IEA report clearly demonstrate China, India, and the rest of the developing Asia would predominantly dominate the energy demand sector as we move forward in future. So India being the second highest in the growth, and you can see the energy demand projections by the International Energy Organization, and Energy Agency. Well, how are we projecting? How are we supporting this growth? What is it that is supporting in terms of energy? If you see the projections of the integrated energy policy, the need itself is multifold. It is in fact double to be in the 10 years down the line. So the increasing energy demand for India's progress is quite concerned, quite alarming. So may I request the participant to please go on mute. That would help us for a easy, smooth integration. Thank you. Well, to meet this demand, we are taking all sorts of energy generation resources, right from the coal to gas, to renewables, and non-renewables like nuclear, as well as the fossil-based additional resources to meet this huge mammoth target. Well, let's quickly look at the current energy mix. Predominantly, it's a coal-based economy, 67%. We do have hydro, legacy hydro, that's where we started. And you can also see an energy mix of close to 13%, which is coming from renewable with a negligible amount coming from the nuclear. But still, there exists a huge demand-supply gap. You can see the amount of consumption is quite high, in fact double than the production. So how are we going to meet this growing energy demand? What choices do we have? What choices do India has? Are we going to predominantly to coal-based? Are we going predominantly to fossil fuel-based, where India is fifth largest energy market in the world? Well, global experience says there is a renewable side of it. Traditionally, India is known for its biomass, the energy coming from the biomass, and with the modern renewables like solar and wind, I think renewable could really help solve India's energy choice. But look at the energy security and the energy, at the end of the day, when you integrate the renewable, what is it is going to cost? Well, some pictures, some numbers with respect to where India is going towards. The investment that India made in 2011 was one of the highest, almost 67% higher in any of the significant economy in the world. We are already in the top 5 new capacity investment in the world. Well, some numbers with respect to the renewable energy installations, predominantly driven by wind. And of late we have quite a lot of solar installations coming up. The biomass and solar, small hydro and biomass are driving. In the second almost they are 30% each, and the solar is also making a dent in the overall energy, the renewable energy capacity. Also a small look at the generation. With respect to what is the amount of the units that it is adding up in terms of generation. Though we say around 13% is the renewable energy capacity, but in terms of generation, it is still ranges between 7 to 8%. So it is still not there, but India has a target to increase this to 15% over the next maybe 7 years or so. Yeah, that is the number that I was talking to. From the current 25 gigawatt, there is a focus to increase the investment, the focus in the renewable energy, especially solar, to the 55 gigawatt in 2017. Well, all this addition is really good, but what it means with respect to the supply-demand gap? Is the renewable able to give the required base load? That's the question. So I'll just quickly take you through some of the demand curves that we have documented over a period of time. This is typically to a regional demand curve, a northern region especially. The demands are quite high in terms of in the month of summer as well as monsoons, and winter it is considerably low compared to what monsoon and summer demand drive. Again, with respect to a state-specific demand curve, if you look at the typical load profile for a state in different months, again it is driven by April month, which is typically a summer in that part of India. Now look at the supply-demand gap, which is the peak demand supply. There is a deficit. There is an energy deficit of 8.5% as well as peak demand deficit of 10.6%. So I would also bring your attention to the peak load at the 18 hours. Sometime the 6 o'clock in the evening. The typical all India daily load curve, it just shoots up. So to meet that demand, we're still struggling. So how are all this falling into the perspective? It is coming to perspective where what is the solution? Where is the supply demand curve, and how this can be integrated together? Well, some thoughts about the distribution system operators. It is still not a real good story when it comes to the distribution systems. They are predominantly state-owned. If you look at the graph there, yeah, most of them lack 100% metering. We have some poor demand-side management measures. So predominantly they are mirrored by the aggregated technical and commercial losses, as they're as high as 40% in some of the states. There has been some measures that Govt of India has taken. I think Mr. Reggie Pillai would really emphasize on those projects which I have enlisted there on R-APDRP project, which has a target to reduce the AT&C losses to 15%, as well as the Rajiv Gandhi Gramin Vidyutikaran Yojana, this RGGVY, Rural and the Grid Extension Project. So Mr. Reggie Pillai would emphasize on those projects. Very short preview on the transmission system operators. We have predominantly it is managed by the central power grid, and there are state transmission companies as well. And this is how the transmission network are connected in the country. Transmission companies are really facing challenges with respect to the intermittent renewable energy sources scheduling, typically wind. If you look at some of the production wind generation patterns month-wise, it is highly unpredictable as of now. Well, there have been some scheduling that has been done, but still it is highly erratic. Solar is little predictable. It has a typical dumbbell-shaped curve, but again, when there is a cloud and rainy situation, the graphs mentioned below, it do pose spikes in the network, in the grid. So with all these challenges, yeah, one more slide where the typical wind and solar generation patterns in Gujarat that was taken in the December 11th. For your information. Predominantly, if you look at in morning peak hours, the wind will come down, while the solar will pick up. But during the evenings, when the wind is really going down, I mean the solar is going down, wind has a slight increase in the production, but it is not the case for every season, every day. Well, renewable energy again picking up quite a much of steam. We are scheduled to add close to, as I said, 55 gigawatt by 2017. So a larger portion of the solar would come in, and thereby it also poses additional insecurities in the grid. This is just a short review of Power Grid's Green Corridor project, where they have dedicated transmission lines which could connect these renewable energy sources, generating renewable energy sources. This is a project of them where they are planning to invest in the 12th 5-year plan, which is starting between 2012 and 2017. Another program that the Power Grid is driving is something called Renewable Energy Management Center, where the management center will integrate this renewable energy load to the grid. Again, why I'm giving all this perspective is to see there has been plans, programs, projects that are happening to integrate this along to the grid, where India is investing. Well, with all this, how are we integrating this? The answer is the smart grids, which has to be integrated and secure, which has many advantages, which addresses the high AT&T losses that we are facing. Again, as I said, integrating renewables, bringing the efficiency up, ensuring the efficient distribution, especially the demand response side. End-to-end visibility to the critical power systems, all generation to transmission to distribution. So thereby ensure the grid access as well as the grid stability and the energy security of the country. What India opportunity we have? especially. It's at the automated metering infrastructure. It's at the demand side management, the communication and T&D losses. Mr. Reggie would emphasize on all these points. Something very interesting that the India Smart Grid Forum is driving is on a national smart grid mission, which has an objective to have all households and buildings the smart grid ready by 2020 and the quality power on demand by 2027. So quite interesting project. So you will hear from him later. Well, some numbers on the market opportunity that India offers, which have been published in various research articles as well as market consulting firms. 130 million smart meters, and there is an investment of 1.4 euros, 1.4 billion euros by 2015. Well, what is EBTC's interest in this? EBTC, as you know, we have an European interest very clearly, and Europe being the hotbed of many smart grid projects, pilot projects, and the policy support. In fact, Europe is where we started quite early in the smart grid cooperation. There are a lot of companies, a lot of institutions who are doing research, pilots on the smart grid. So we brought in such institutions to India. They in fact visited the policymakers at the central government level as well as the state government level to see what opportunities we have to participate. They witnessed the progress that is happening currently at the policy as well as the pilots, and we also visited the Gujarat Solar Park, where the integration is happening seamlessly at the moment, and the experts are at the moment are exploring opportunities to participate in the field test of the smart grid. Another interesting development was on European Commission's invitation. A high-level India Smart Grid delegation visited very recently. They were exposed to the policy framework of how EU has rolled out the smart grid implementation and pilots across European member states, something very similar to what we have in our setup. The different states in our country, so in different countries in Europe, something similar that we can draw similarity. The team also visited some of the smart grid pilot implementation projects, witnessed some of the distribution and transmission operators, how they operate their systems efficiently. So that was quite interesting experience. And we also witnessed some interesting demand side management pilots and research setups. So going beyond, the EBTC's role would be to explore opportunities and to bridge the Europe and India, and we would be happy to support any of your interest in India and vice versa. So EBTC is the platform that I would recommend you to connect. Well, we have facilitated quite a lot of such interest, some capacity building activities as well. So we have a very defined process of how the whole transfer or cooperation happens. Yeah, we are proud to display our list of partners that we work with, especially the Fraunhofers and Vitos and Polytechnicos. They have research capability. They worked on the hands-on smart grid projects, and we will be happy to connect the Indian opportunities with them. Enterprise Europe Network is another network where EBTC is the nodal organization. So it is the platform, a global platform where technologies can be sourced from India or outside India, from Europe, and both ways. Well, without much ado, I would transfer the presentation to Mr. Reggie. I would request him, to take us through the smart grid opportunities that India gives. Thank you very much. We will have the questions at the end after Mr. Reggie's presentation.
Thank you, Vittal. Trust everybody can hear me and see the slides. Good morning to all the participants from Europe, and good afternoon to all the participants from India. First of all, I wish to thank EBTC and Vittal for the efforts taken in bridging this gap between India and Europe in the smart grid arena. the second slide, which is some logos, which talks about the people who are involved with India Smart Grid Forum, which is an initiative of Ministry of Power, Government of India, started about a year and a half ago. It's a public-private partnership for driving the smart grid developments in the country, leveraging the knowledge pool from the industry, academia, and research. So today we have more than 105 members covering utilities, technology companies, regulatory bodies, academia, government institutions, many from America and Europe, you can see here. So you will ask why smart grid in India, why is it our priority? So let me give a brief about it. Mittal has given a very detailed account of the power scenario here. I would like to give a different perspective of the same thing. Come to the next slide, please. Yeah, this is a brief on our power sector. So if you look at from one perspective, it is the fourth largest power system in the world with an installed capacity of 210 gigawatts. And this has doubled in the last 10 years. And it is expected to grow at the same 8 to 10% per year for next several decades. Our power requirement, the maximum demand in 2032 is estimated to be close to 900 gigawatt, which means it has to quadruple in the next 20 years. So, and today our power consumption, per capita power consumption in India is 1/4 of the world average. So this kind of 8 to 10% of growth per year also may not be sufficient to bring the billion plus people in India to even to the level of world average consumption of today, even 15 or 20 years down the line. So we have a huge challenge ahead of us. The power sector activities in the country are largely dominated by government, both federal government as well as state governments. We have 29 states and 7 union territories. All of them have the state government owned entities involved in generation, transmission, distribution, except in Delhi and Orissa, 2 states. And on the regulatory side, we are very much like United States. We have a central electricity regulatory commission like the FREC in United States, and each of the states have their own state electricity regulatory commissions where they adjudicate on matters within the state, and interstate matters are normally referred to the central electricity regulatory commission. Some of the small states have gone for joint regulatory commission, so we have total 23 or 24 regulatory commissions here. On the transmission side, we have a very modern transmission grid because most of these lines we built in the last 25 years. Main connections are on 400 kV lines. Now we are building 765 kV lines. We've been operating HVDC lines for last 20-30 years. We have a fairly large HVDC capacity in the country. Now also we are upgrading the AC system to 1200 kV AC and 800 kV DC networks. It is operated as 5 regional power systems, all interconnected. The 4 regions are the north, west, east, and northeast. The 4 regions are seamlessly interconnected and operating in one frequency, which is more than 150,000 megawatt of power there. And the southern region is separate. By someday, merely next year, we expect to connect southern region with the rest of the country. Today, southern region is connected through HVDC lines. When it comes to distribution side, we have major problems. Most of the distribution companies, as I said, except Delhi and Orissa and some cities like Bombay, Calcutta, Ahmedabad, Surat, rest of the country, the distribution is done by the state government-owned distribution companies, and these entities encourage huge losses. The network losses in these places are very huge, owing to the network being continuously expanded to have more and more villages to be connected, and connection to be given to more and more households. So today, India has more than 600,000 villages. We have electrified about 500,000 or 550,000 villages. We still have about 70,000 villages. These are huge numbers when you hear. We have electrified 165 million households. We still have 79 million households not electrified or connected to the grid. That's what when many of the reports you will see 400 million people still not connected to the grid. So that is that approximately 79 or 80 million households into average 4 or 5 people per households. So that's what this 400 million number coming to. The priority of the government is to connect all these people to the grid, give them electricity. And the other side, 800 million people who are connected to the grid, in most part of the country they experience power cut, several hours of power cuts. And the quality of power also not very good. Because as I said, more and more in an effort to connect more and more villages, the network was expanded in a way which was not according to sound engineering practices. Our ratio of high tension line to low tension line is very poor. Some places it's as bad as 1:10 or more. So these kind of basic problems we need to correct. So next slide, please. Vittal had mentioned about this Restructured Accelerated Power Development and Reform Program. So we started with reforms in the power sector some 20 years ago in 91, 92. So till such time, all the business was by and large controlled by government entities. We opened up the sector for private investment in 91, and many private entities came from different parts of the world to set up power plants here. So that initial euphoria soon died out because of several factors. The main thing was the distribution companies were financially not sound and they didn't have enough resources to pay back to the generation company or the transmission company. So here, first such effort started in 2002 in our 10th 5-year plan by giving about $5 billion to 56 select urban centers in India to Govt of India, and 50% as a loan, a low interest bearing loan. So those 56 major urban centers in India, the electrical network got upgraded. But along with that, the automation and IT systems were not put in place. Even proper metering was not put in place. So the effort to reduce the losses, partially it was successful. Since measurement systems were not in place, actual benefit could not be rebundled and doubled in size was approved by the government in the 11th 5-year plan from 2007 to 2012. That is this R-APDRP program. This is when it was launched, it was a $12 billion program. It's a $12 billion program, of which $2 billion was exclusively set aside for as a 100% grant from Govt of India to the distribution companies for setting up their IT infrastructure and basic applications. So that is the part A, $2 billion. The couple of applications which are written in this slide are for that, and the other $10 billion for improving the electrical network. And this program covered 1,401 towns all across the country, 1,401 towns with a population above 5,000 according to the census of those days were covered, and these are in the advanced stage of implementation. So under this program, to buy purely IT equipment and applications, over $1 billion has already been spent by these distribution companies in last 3 years. And because of delay in some of the tendering and procurement process, this program is running little late. And also, when this program was launched, there was not enough capacity in the industry to go to all these 29 states and do similar kind of jobs. So as a result, it is running a year and a half late. We expect most of the states to complete this implementation of R-APDRP Part A, which is building the IT infrastructure and a set of IT and automation solutions by end of this year, or some of the states may go to middle of next year. And this is some of the, as you can go through the, when you go to the through the details, you will see many of these pieces are basic building blocks of smart grid projects. Next slide, please. Yeah, you might ask, I told you about 400 million people not connected to the grid, 800 million people experiencing power cuts of several hours of power cuts every day. And why are we looking at smart grid? Why are we not fixing our basic issues? Yes, for the very same reason. We would like to leverage new technologies, smart technologies, to leapfrog traditional infrastructure build out and alleviate some of these major problems our citizens are facing in the country. What are the stakeholders' expectations or drivers for smart grid in India? From the customer perspective, it is to expand access to electricity to all. Power for all, this 80 million households to be electrified, and maybe in the next 5 years we will add another 20 to 25 million housing stock. So connecting them, and we have a huge demand supply gap during peak hours. How can we leverage new technologies, demand response and those kind of technologies to at least ensure lifeline supply to all the households during peak hours, even in 4 or 5 hours? Can we shift the load of industries and other categories of consumers and ensure electricity to all the residential consumers? Yes, if the technology can help do that, we already have more than enough generation capacity to do that. And improve the quality of supply. If you enter any building, you will see voltage stabilizers and so many other equipment which are UPS, and many equipment are used by millions of people all across the country. It is sunk cost in the economy. We would like to improve upon that situation. And from the utility side, I said more than 30% of the electricity pumped in the country is lost in the wires. We don't know where it is going. A good percentage of is technical losses or the I2R losses, and a good percentage perhaps is theft. So today we don't even know how much is theft, how much is the technical losses. So the aim is to bring that at least to 15% in the next 5 years. And utilities are losing huge amount of money on behalf of or on account of this T&D, transmission and distribution losses. In some of the large states, this percentage is as high as 45 to 50%. And peak load management, as I said, we have to disconnect feeder after feeder during peak hours to manage the supply demand gap. As a result, people have a lot of those who can afford, they all have backup generation capacities or storage options in the form of inverters, very inefficient devices, or DG sets. By one estimate, in last year, we have more than 62 gigawatt of captive generation or standby generation capacity of size above 1 megawatt. 62 gigawatt of capacity above 1 megawatt size. And if you take the smaller one, 5 kilowatt, 20 kilowatt, 100 kilowatt, it may be another 100 gigawatt. So these are all sunk cost in the economy, using diesel most of the cases, which is a subsidized fuel. And in many cases, the cost of production of electricity from these are 30 to 50 cents per unit. So if we are able to at least manage peak load properly, many of these problems can be solved, and which will also help the utilities in reducing their power purchase cost and help better asset management, increased grid visibility, and renewable integration. As Vittal has already said, we have one of the largest renewable programs going on in the world, 20 gigawatt of solar, grid connected solar capacity addition in the next 10 years. So of which already we have achieved more than 1 gigawatt. Today the renewable percentage is about 12% by capacity. We expect it to exceed 20% by end of this decade. And government and regulators want satisfied customers and financially sound utilities without upsetting the tariff mechanism much. And India is also a voluntary signatory for emission reduction. We have signed a protocol to reduce emissions emission intensity up to 25% by 2025 from the 2005 levels. So we would like to pursue smarter technologies. So keeping all this in mind, and also considering the fact that we need to do more work on the electrical network. While advanced nations in the Western Europe or in North America, you have a stable electrical network and minimum 2-3% annual growth. Much less work you need to do on the electrical network in the journey to smart grid. More work need to be done, which you can see from your ongoing programs. More accent on smart metering, data communication, analytics, those kind of high-end solutions. Whereas in India, we need to do more work on strengthening the electrical network itself, and in addition to that, to automate and to have intelligence built onto the electrical system. So keeping this in view, India Smart Grid Forum formulated a smart grid roadmap and submitted to the government last year. The web link which is given in this slide, you can download that. It is a exhaustive document. We try to benchmark our roadmap with those of other countries where we could get information. And this is a 15-year roadmap from 2012 to 2027. And why this odd number 2027 is because we wanted to align this with 3 5-year programs. That is 12th 5-year plan, 13th and 14th. 12th 5-year plan we just started with from middle of 2012. It will go to 2017. So that is the smart grid roadmap, and we have also made recommendation to the government to make it a national mission. We have so many other national missions running. The national smart grid development also should be made a national smart grid mission, which is under the consideration of the government, and several stakeholders are involved in this besides Ministry of Power. So it is under discussion and debate at this point. Please come to the next point. Next slide, please. As I told you already, India Smart Grid Forum is a public-private partnership initiative of Ministry of Power for accelerated development and deployment of smart grid technologies in the Indian power sector. This members include utilities, technology and service providers, regulators, research academia, and other stakeholders. Ministry of Power started it. Now we have more ministries joined it. Many government institutions are there. The Ministry of Renewable, New and Renewable Energy, which is pursuing the renewables program. Ministry of Heavy Industries, which is pursuing a electric vehicle program. This is also one of the largest electric vehicle programs in the world. They are also recently joined us members in India Smart Grid Forum. As of end of January, we have 105 members. Prime objective is to accelerate development of smart grid technologies and development of standards. We recommend our recommendations are advisory in nature. We don't have any statutory power. We seek the best practices, and like this roadmap, we make recommendations to the government on different aspects of smart grid development. In addition to smart grid smart grid forum, government has also constituted a very high-powered India Smart Grid Task Force, which has statutory powers. The chairperson of Smart Grid Task Force is Mr. Sam Pitroda, who is an advisor to Prime Minister of India with the Cabinet Minister's rank, and he is considered to be the father of India's telecom revolution. And more details about India Smart Grid Forum structure, categories, membership, etc. can be seen from the web link which is given in this slide. Please come to the next slide, please. Yeah, we have 10 working groups focused on different aspects of smart grids. Each of these work groups are chaired by very senior executives from very reputed organizations like GE Energy, Tata Power, Reliance, Central Power Research Institute, Siemens, Central Electricity Regulatory Commission, IBM, Infosys, IET, L&T. These are the working groups and very senior people leading that, and several members are part of many of these working groups, and they all have set their terms of reference and roadmap for the deliverables which they will be coming out in the next couple of months. Next slide, please. So one of the key things we would like to do is to have some large-scale pilot projects. So 14 pilot projects have been approved by Ministry of Power for different distribution utilities last year, and this is also available. Oh, I forgot to provide that link. It's also, you will find when you go to the same site, indiasmartgrid.org, the previous web links which I have given, there is projects, smart grid projects, and that link you will find that link. So 14 projects in different states, and the brief summary of the functionalities, the aims, objectives of the projects are also there at that link. These projects will be funded, 50% of the cost of these projects will be given as grant from Government of India, and the combined cost of these projects are about $80 million or 56 million euro. These projects are expected to be in execution mode by second half of this year. Most of these projects involve 20,000 or more customers, and we would like to, these are basically going to help us as technology trials, which will help us selection of technology in different regions in India. And many large utilities could not apply for this last year when the calls were given for utilities to submit their project proposals for funding under this program. Many of the utilities and states lost out. So sometime second half of this year we will be starting another round of projects, which India Smart Grid Forum is already requested Ministry to look at it. Those will be much larger projects, and some money has already been found for that. It will be over 100 million euros. And one of the major challenges for us is last mile connectivity, and we need several field trials to determine the most appropriate set of communication solutions because of the geography and of the kind of buildings which we use and the huge concentration of people in small places, small urban areas. Many of the proven technologies in other parts of the world have not been very successful while trying out here. So we'll not get into the technology side now. We'll look at what are the options or what are the major opportunities for companies from Europe in the smart grid development in India. Please come to the next slide, please. Yeah, we conduct regular technology sessions and workshops with all stakeholders. I was telling that yesterday I had a webinar with UKTI, UK Technology Trade and Technology, UKTI. Yeah. So I was telling them that we have more than 20 corporations from US, 7 French companies. We have SAP from Germany. We have a couple of the Swiss registered companies, but none from UK, and for many parts of the rest of Europe it's applicable. We have only 2, Cyan Technologies, a small company, and a Vodafone. These 2 people are in the process of joining. But there are several academic institutions which have shown interest in undertaking joint research under some RC UK Research Fund. Department of Science and Technology in India, they have received some 16 applications which are under evaluation currently. Most of them are on smart grid projects. Numbers are very important, variety of reasons. It grows in big proportion in no time. You know that from the mobile revolution which happened in India, and the prices of the telecom equipment and particularly the telephone instruments has plummeted. Same with the solar program. The JNN, the Jawaharlal Nehru National Mission for Solar Mission, that was launched in 2010, and 11-12 years itself, the PV prices have almost halved in the world because of that program particularly. And now we are pursuing a large electric vehicle program.
Hello? I think, Reggie, we are losing you in between. Okay, I think more or less, I think we came to the end of the discussion. So we just hope, Reggie would join us back. Okay, so in the meantime, I would, request, I will open up the session for the question and answer. And please raise your hand if you have a question to ask, or you can also post your questions in the in the chart column. Okay, so now we have Mr. Gillis.
Yes, can you hear me? Is it okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I'm Gilles Laferrière, working for ELIA, the Belgian system operator, the grid system operator, transmission system operator.
Can you hear me? I am back.
Thank you again for. Sorry?
Yes, Reggie, we can hear you.
Sorry, sorry for that disconnection.
No problem. No problem. Mr. Gillis, go ahead.
So it's very good to hear you, to hear both of you again. Thank you very much for those presentations. I just wanted to come back to the budget that were allocated by the government of India for the pilot projects. So if I understand correctly, most of those projects are R&D projects. So is it mostly paper projects, or you have also like concrete, I would say, physical infrastructure projects as well within this budget?
Reggie, would you like to answer?
Yeah, I talked about different. First one, I talked about 14 smart grid pilot projects, each one of them involving about 20,000 consumers in different states. Those are real projects in the utilities on the ground. The last one I told was some research grant, that is joint research between academic institutions in UK and academic institutions and some industry partners in India. Those are in proposal evaluation stage, but the other 14 projects are already allocated to utilities, and the funding will go from Government of India, and they will be calling RFPs and tenders and engaging technology partners in the coming months. Those are real projects on the ground.
Okay, so basically there will be tenders issued directly by the government of India.
No, utilities. Respective utilities in 14 states. Each one of them are owned by the respective state governments. So they cannot make any procurement unless they go through tendering process.
Okay, and then and so to access those tenders, is there like a place that is easy to find on, I would say, on the net, and to be able to catch those opportunities?
Yeah, everything will be available on indiasmartgrid.org, www.indiasmartgrid.org. Okay. That's a India Smart Grid Forum and the Government of India portal we recently launched. It's still work in progress, but all new information will be there. That will be a platform where everything will be available.
Okay, perfect. So we will keep an eye on it, and I will also transfer the information to Ronnie Benmans. I think he will be interested also to have a look at those projects.
Ronnie knows us very well.
Yeah.
We are all
but I will let him know that there are I mean concrete funding that are available, and that we can try to form partnerships to actually to be able to offer something interesting to those projects.
Very good.
Okay, thanks, Reggie. This question is from Mr. Paul Cognan. He has a question on the energy storage. Mr. Cognan, please speak.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
We can hear you.
Okay. I had a question for Mr. Kumar Pillai. I was wondering, according to the smart grids, how does India proceed for the electricity storage? Do you have any pumped storage, hydro electricity maybe?
Yeah, we have 2-3 pump storage plants which we are in the roadmap. We will be adding some 4,000 or 5,000 megawatt more. Current pump storage capacity, I believe, is less than 2,000 megawatts, and on the pump storage, the larger plant main problem is the geographical issues. It can be done only some places where the geography permits. So now we look at other options, particularly the excess wind power which is there. Can that be used for pumping water and store it? That is one. But otherwise, if you look at energy storage as a distributed energy storage, one of the largest is in India, because every household, middle class household, we have inverter, a small inefficient device called inverter with a lead acid battery. So we like to actually get rid of that and to have bigger the grid connected energy storage devices, and we are very keenly watching the technology evolution in that space. And also, as I mentioned, 6 million electric vehicles rollout plan the government has launched is also how we can leverage that millions of electric vehicles which will be connected to the grid as virtual power plants. So, but on the pump storage side, yes, as we speak, last week only one tender issued by the state of Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu government issued a tender for appointing a consultant who can help them design a pump storage plant of some 600 megawatt or something. I can't exactly recollect, but pump storage Tamil Nadu, if you Google, you will see that. The tender is currently on for engaging a consultant who can design and draw the specifications, etc., for a pump storage plant.
Okay. The next question comes from Mr. Dinakar Krishnan. Mr. Krishnan, you can go ahead and ask the question.
Hello.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
my friend, how are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Good, good, good. Nice to hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, nice to listen to you again. My question was in terms of, I mean, what we see in is probably, as you mentioned during your presentation as well, that some of the discoms were not in a very good financial situation. But recently, I recollect or remember that probably there was some kind of a support system, financial support or restructuring that the center has announced. So, how far will this help these utilities to take up smart grid projects? That is one. And what is your your level of optimism about their commitment to the smart grids?
Well, those two are entirely different in terms of size. Actually, if you look at it, the total state government-owned utilities, their current account losses at this point, the financial deficit is about $40 billion. So, but of which about $32 billion comes from 8 largest states. So those states have already agreed to the financial restructuring package proposed by central government. So they have signed up and the cabinet has approved. So it amounts to some 32 or $34 billion. So what happens under that is that their interest burden will be set aside. 50% of the debt will be taken over by central government, and the 50% will go to the respective state government, so that the utility, the distribution companies' books are cleaned up. So that is something which they are doing. That's a much bigger exercise. And the ongoing smart grid projects or many of the other utilities own smart metering programs are very small numbers compared to that exercise. So we are very optimistic that they understand why they are all in this perennial situation of financial losses is two things. Last 7 years, many of the states did not increase tariff, which they have done now, and it's going to improve their last 1 year. Most of the states have done twice or thrice they have increased the tariff. Now the tariff is almost cost reflective, which was not the case from 2002 to 2010. They did not increase even a single paisa in most of the states. So that contributed to the huge losses, and which will be set aside now. And also another major contributor to their financial problems is the network losses or the T&D losses. So for which technology deployment is very much required, and the importance of that has been understood. There are already like utilities in Delhi, utilities in Gujarat, they have already demonstrated that through the technology deployment only they can reduce T&D losses. So there will be much more buy-in, and utilities will come forward to implement technology for their problems. I'm very hopeful about that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Reggie. Thank you, Krishnan. We have a question from Amit Shukla. Amit, are you still online? Okay, looks like Amit has a couple of questions, Reggie, essentially on you know, about the 40% of India, you know, where the grid is yet to reach. So is anything from a distributed generation side? Also,
I mean, Amit Shukla from which organization?
we don't see, I think he must have left actually.
Okay. Is the audience muted or audience is unmuted? Just see.
No, we don't see him actually.
Okay, okay. Okay, what is the question? One about the 40% people.
40%, yeah, for the grid is yet to reach the rest of the 40% of India. So, what about the distributed generation? How it is relevant with the smart grid, as well as what is the upgradation of the existing?
First part, let me give you the numbers. According to the latest numbers, I believe there are some 88,000 villages according to the new definition of the villages, which means 2011 census. Village is something where more than 500 people, households are there. So according to the definition, so we were pursuing this RGGY with 2001 statistics, and according to that there are less than 10,000 villages to be electrified, but the other hamlets where less than 500 households were there in 2001 has increased to now we have 88,000 villages, and there are other hamlets which are more than 100 households, which are another 165,000 places. So those places need to be connected to the grid. RGGY program continues to connect them, but the biggest worry is not these left out villages. Biggest worry is giving at least lifeline supply to this 500,000 villages which has already electrified. We spend big amount of money in connecting those villages. Many of them don't get electricity even 2 days or 3 days in a week. So that situation needs to be rectified, and in many of the villages where it is electrified, the percentage of households which are electrified are also very less. Some places 10%, some places 50%. So as a result, I told you the big numbers. 165 million households are electrified, 79 million are left out. And in next 5 years, maybe we may add another 20 to 25 million households. So we have 100 million plus to be electrified in next 5 or 7 years. That's a huge tall task. Not unachievable through focus programs. The government wants to do that. But the bigger challenge is, as I said, at least lifeline supply, 3-4 hours of supply. How can we give it to these people every day? And that is where we would like to leverage the microgrid technologies, the demand response programs, the 62 gigawatt of distributed generation or captive generation of 1 megawatt and above, which are already available in the system. If those categories of consumers, if we can incentivize them to control their load during peak hours, shift some of the loads to non-peak hours, or completely even island from the main grid and run their critical systems on their own generation capacity or storage facilities, available power on the grid can be used to light millions more homes. So that is one of the biggest priorities. So microgrid is one of the major priority item you can see in our roadmap. And while in Europe or in America, to build a microgrid, you need to invest first in the generation. What is the generation capacity within the microgrid? Here, fortunately, that is already existing. We have industrial parks, we have commercial hubs, we have gated community. They all have their own generation. We have to only put very marginal money to convert them into microgrid. Hello? Yeah. So
go ahead.
This is the program continues, and connecting that 88,000 villages according to the new census, plus that 165,000 other hamlets with more than 100 households. Those are all priority programs for the in the country's health plan. That's a target to be done. And distributed generation, solar, these are all very, very important from that perspective.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's a very critical part of the Indian success story to provide the energy access. So thank you very much. I think we are slowly coming to the end of the for this webinar. We just have we'll take just two questions, Reggie. One from the audience, and I also have a question, for you. So I would request Rekha Salvi to please, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah. Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Pillai. Good evening, Dani. How are you? Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I have one question. This regarding funding. That is at a recent meeting at the Central Electricity Authority. It seems there's a proposal for nearly $50 million of funding, which is proposed from the Ministry of Power for smart grid projects, with the state governments expecting to fund half of that, to contribute about half of the funding required for the smart grid projects in various states. How far is this, is true, or how far is this going to be implemented? That's one thing. And what are the technologies, second from technology angle, what are the technologies that, in the India smart grid arena is looking at from Europe or US, or what is it that, anything specific technology, or is there any kind of a brief that we can have so that we can take it, back in Finland?
Okay. So first about the pilot projects, yes, this is the same money which you are talking about. It's not actually 50 million, it's more actually. It's about the combined value of these projects, 14 projects are about $80 million. And the projects have been allocated in September. So the fund allocation which will happen along with this budget in this month, next month, we expect that 50% money which is to be given as grant by Government of India, those paperwork is expected to be completed in the coming in a month or two. And thereafter, some of the states are going ahead with the procurement program, even without this funding coming from Delhi, because they have their own money to start with. So this was allocated sometime in September. Actually, the letters are gone from ministry to respective 14 states. And as I said, if you go to the India Smart Grid Forum website, you will find under the projects, this 14 smart grid pilot projects in India, you will see the summary of that. Your second question about the technology, see here in this 14 projects we've been talking about the functionalities. Technology has not been specified as of now, so that will come in the procurement stage. Each of the state utilities while tendering, they may look at each of the technology providers who are coming forward to execute these projects to take responsibility for choosing the technology which they feel is appropriate for that particular region, considering the geography and the consumer class concentration, and take responsibility for that, choosing the technology and also make them responsible for the success of that. So that's a model which, because utilities don't know what will work, what will not work. So from that perspective, many of the Indian companies who have not done this kind of large technology, the smart metering or smart grid projects in India, they may be looking for collaborations from other regions, other countries where such projects have been successfully rolled out. So have a look at this 14 projects, what are the functionalities and what are the technology options for each one of them.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Reggie. Maybe the last question I would pose, and then I think with that we will end the program. My question would be, how mature do you think, in your opinion, the Indian smart grid market in a scale of 1 to 10, and what areas of opportunity does it pose for SMEs, European SMEs, especially because we believe the innovation part is happening at the small medium enterprises, and that is what India needs. We just do not need some ready-made solutions, ready-made products, but how we are able to adopt it, how innovatively we are able to bring that to the force is something that we are looking for. So, in your opinion, what is the maturity of the Indian smart grid market, and what areas where these SMEs can participate? Something like smart metering or communication protocols. Your opinion, please.
First of all, I would say that smart grid market, for that matter, in any geography, any part of the world, it has not matured. It has not gone any maturity above 5, even in Europe. If you look at it, it's all in trials and implementation, standard development. These are happening concurrently. So at least we can say proudly that we are not left out. We are not much lagging behind in this area, mainly because of the the government's initiatives and the kind of the teams which we've been able to bring, the focus we've been able to bring from the industry in this area, particularly through Smart Grid Forum and Smart Grid Task Force. So we are not laggards in this area like many other areas we were laggards. So if you actually look at it, maybe if I put Europe at 5, India may be at 2 to 3, somewhere in that range. And but from here, as I said, some of the technologies, once it starts acceptance, and then scaling up becomes much faster than in other regions because we are such huge numbers. So this, and SMEs in Europe are the ones which will be, if they have a focus, if there are platforms like EBTC or ISGF who could provide access for them, they will be much bigger winners than the bigger bureaucracies. They go through their measurement process and they will not make any investment saying that, okay, there is, last year revenue was only 1 million, so next year we forecast only 2 million. So that's the way the larger bureaucracies like where I worked, I don't want to take the name. So many of them work. So that is not, the smaller people can see things better. Yesterday's webinar, there was one gentleman from UK, they said that he has some patent for putting intelligence on PVs, distributed PVs. I was telling him the example of the news, the Riva cars, the electric cars which are going to be launched in April in India, that has a facility to directly charge from the solar panels. And another interesting thing I like to say is that world's largest off-grid PV market is India. That too in a state, one of the least developed state, Bihar, which many of you must have heard. In Bihar, there's a the capital of Bihar is Patna. Patna has a road, 1 kilometer road called Exhibition Road. That's the world's largest off-grid PV market. Why is it so? Because most part of the Bihar villages have no electricity. Even if it is an electrified villages, they don't get electricity for several days or several hours every day. So one of the biggest demand these days, when you marry off a girl, you have to give a dowry. The word dowry, I believe most of you understand. So today in the rural India, in Jharkhand, in Orissa, in Bihar, in UP, one of the demand from the boy side as dowry is a solar lighting system, a 150 watt solar system, which or a 75 watt solar system. This is one of the major, these are all illiterate people from villages, and the girls' fathers, they come to Exhibition Road to buy this, and they have options from $200 to $50 to $200 to buy this 75 watt, 150 watt systems which can run 2 CFL lamps and a fan and a charger for the cell phone. So this is the way things are, and the planners in India, the government people, they have no idea such market exists there in Patna. So when this electric two-wheelers and electric four-wheelers are going to be rolled out all across the country, there will be a lot of new applications which we cannot even imagine today. It will find its place in the country, and innovative SMEs from Europe can harness this opportunity if they have a platform to keep track of what is happening here.
Okay, thank you very much, Reggie. That was quite positive, of you to, given a very positive perspective about, participation of European SMEs in the India Smart Grid story. So with this, I thank all the participants who stayed over that extra time. You found this very interesting, so thank you very much, and would be very, very thankful to Mr. Reggie Pillai, the industry person who made this session very, very lively and informative. So as a conclusion, so EBTC, please use the EBTC as a platform for European and Indian collaboration. If you are interested in any of the business opportunities, technology collaborations, or any academic partnerships in this interesting market of smart grid, so please get in touch with us. So with that, I thank again one and all. We will share the PPTs and we will continue the dialogue with each one of you. Thank you very much, and you have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you everybody. Bye.